Hello, fellow translators. First of all, let me know if you're very bored of this background because I think just because I'm recording these videos kind of in a row, I realize how monotonous this same background is, and with the same face and same shirt. I could have at least changed my shirt, but I didn't. I mean, anyway, that has nothing to do with the video. So anyway, hopefully the information alone can get you through this video, and you don't need different backgrounds. But anyway, this video I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about some of the differences between freelancing and salaried jobs, let's say, and in the difference when you're searching for jobs. Because I think a lot of people come from salaried jobs, or even if you don't, you come from school. And in school, you kind of learned how to apply to salaried jobs, you know, the 9 to 5, the employed for a long-term contract, in-house, blah, blah, blah. But if you're working as a freelancer, there are a lot of differences, and these aren't really covered very often, and definitely not in school. And you know, many freelancers who make the transition don't know much about it, and so I didn't know anything about it, quite frankly, and so it can be an issue. So I kind of wanted to cover some of the things. First of all, when you, I mean, and a lot of the main issues have to do, look, you know, when you're looking for jobs, it's different because you're not looking for a job where then you're going to sit down and you're going to be dealing with the people 24/7, and these people will become kind of like a new family to you. And also this idea that I search for a job, oh, I found a job, now I can stop searching because I have a job. You don't have any of that with freelancing, you know, unfortunately. But it's a very different methodology, and so I kind of wanted to cover that. The main issues that happen at first will be when you're searching for a job. So like for the resume, let's say, and the information that you have in that. And I've noticed this also when I'm doing my resume critiques and reviews of you know, some of the changes that you need to make. So first of all, when you're searching for a freelance job, there are a couple things you don't need to worry about. You don't need to worry about holes in your resume. A lot of people are worried, you know, because they have this summer they didn't really work, or in between jobs they didn't work for here, or you know, even if like they had a kid and raised a kid and they didn't work for a couple of years, they don't like showing that, which maybe for salary jobs can be an issue, but that doesn't matter when you're freelancing. Definitely for freelance translation, it doesn't matter. What people are going to do with the resumes when you're a freelancer is, since they're hiring you for that one job, they're going to kind of go through and look how qualified you are for that job. That's it. And so you don't need to worry if there are any gaps. You know, they might always say, oh, I noticed a gap. Why is there a gap? So have an answer to that. But otherwise, and you can even say I was working something that didn't have to do with translation, or I raised a kid, which I think, you know, is never a reason to be, you know, to feel iffy about having a gap, because that's, anyway, whatever. You know, some people feel embarrassed about that as well for some reason. But anyway, you don't need to worry so much about that. What you should have is a list of everything that's relevant to your job, which brings me to the second point. A lot of people want to include kind of every job they've had since college or every job they've had recently, stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily do that. I would only include, even if it creates gaps, I would only include the stuff that's relevant to the job at hand. So what does this mean? Obviously, this means anything to do with translation. It means anything to do with your specialization as well. So that's the thing. If you're a translator and you specialize in legal translations, and if you worked before as a paralegal, absolutely include that. That's very, very, very pertinent to doing legal translations. In fact, probably more than that translation degree. And so yeah, anything that has to do with any of your concentrations or specializations should be kept in there. And obviously anything to do with translation should be kept in there. And then obviously whatever you put under it, the bullet points or the explanation for each job, all of these should be pertaining to translation or knowledge of the terminology of the industry or stuff like that. You know, it helps people show that you know what you're talking about. And you know, and a lot of times it'll be something like that. I worked as a paralegal, and even if what you had nothing to do with translation, you still probably spoke 2 languages. And so you can say, I worked as a paralegal, and this involved paralegal work, including translating all the documents before they were sent to court, or act as an interpreter in the court or for our lawyers or stuff like that, which makes me fluent in the legal terminology in both languages, or blah, 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 something like that. You know, because this is very relevant and, you know, really helps a lot. So even if your job was not as a translator per se, you can still really build off of what you were doing, and that can really help out a lot. Another thing to do is and another thing to point out in this list of stuff you've done is anytime that you were entrepreneurial or manage a project on your own or stuff like that. Because when you're hiring people online, you need to make sure you can hire people who can accomplish a job, do it on time, within a certain deadline, and who kind of, motivate themselves to do it. And the issue is when you work at a job, at a salary job, you have a boss telling you what to do, and you leaning over your shoulder and like, make sure you do, and then you do it. When you work on your own, you don't have that. You have to kind of push yourself to do it. And so you kind of, if you have anything that shows that you're able to do that, then that's another good thing to highlight, because that's kind of in the back of the mind of a lot of people, especially if you don't have much experience yet in terms of freelance translation, you're kind of new to it. You want to show them that, oh, but I can manage my own projects. I can get my own stuff done. And because that gives them some relaxation, let's say. It helps them out a bit in terms of trusting you and stuff like that. Another thing would be another thing to highlight is any computer skills you have. And these often, when you're applying for salary jobs, you put, I can do Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, blah, blah, blah. And then you don't really care too much because no one cares too much. But people care a little bit when all the business you do with them is through the computer, right? And so you do want to show at least that you know Word and PowerPoint, the main things you're going to be doing the translations on. If you have any experience with DTP, desktop publishing, I would absolutely put that. That's always in high demand for some reason. I mean, for some reason, because people do a lot of layouts. So if you do have experience with layouts and stuff like that, definitely put that up. That can help out. In fact, that can be something that you add on to your translations. Many times you can add this for a fee. Say, I will, do the translation plus any DTP publishing for X amount per hour or per whatever, whatever you want to do. So any computer skills you have, I would also put those because those are quite important as well. And yeah, otherwise it depends really from person to person and situation to situation. But those are some of the main points that you should have, that you should keep in mind when you have your resume, when you're tweaking it or making it for freelance translation, for freelancing in general, but for freelance translation more specifically. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that don't get in touch with me and complain saying, I sent my resume out to 20 people and no one replied. What the hell? I don't want to hear that. You're going to be sending your resume out to 500 different people, okay? Because what happens is you're going to send your resume out to 20 people, maybe 30 people, and someone will reply, and then you get a job. And by reply, I mean, yeah, that you actually get a job. But guess what? You're still going to have to send your resume out after that. It doesn't stop with just one client. If you're lucky to get a regular client, that's great. But even a regular client won't be a full-time job. A regular client just means you get stuff once a week from them or whatever it might be, So it's you're going to keep sending your resume out, and you're going to send it out many times. And I'm not exaggerating when I say 500 times, because even after you're already working and making money, you're still sending your resume out to other people. When you work as a freelancer, that's the way. It's not like a salary job. You have to keep sending it out. And so what's good though, this makes it kind of hard at the beginning because you'll have a lot of competition because a lot of people are just sending their resume out, right? And so it can get hard to get known, but it's really good later on when you already have a name for yourself, you already have the referrals and the ratings and everything like that, because then you kind of are going at the top of each pack every time you send these resumes out, because you've been through this before many times and you kind of know what stands out, what doesn't, what works, what doesn't. You have the experience, and so you know that you're sending your resume out and it's actually getting seen and it's getting good. You might have a much better chance of getting a job once you have the experience. And that's why, the whole pregame section that I have in my course, that's why I think it's so important. That's why I have it up and center. My course, if you've taken it, you've seen I have it. And I also say how long it takes to complete each section, because I'm like, do this. Just do this part. You absolutely need to have this done before you start off, because, you want to start off on the right foot and when you're applying for jobs, because then otherwise you can stay there and be sending resumes out for a year before you hear back from anyone, and it can be hell. So you really need to kind of get things done correctly at the beginning, and then, work to get those ratings and referrals, because then that'll help you go up. And then when you start sending resumes, so like when I send resumes out, I don't do it that often because I have my agency, but I still do every now and then. I usually get responses, and I know I have a pretty good chance because I know I have a pretty good resume, and I also know what to apply for, and I know what I'm good at and what I can add value to and stuff like that. But and any translator with experience kind of has that in their own way. But you need to get to that point, and at the beginning, it's going to be a bit difficult, and you're going to have to send a lot of resumes out, and you're going to learn with all the responses you get, but it's going to take some time. And yeah, because it's not like a salaried job. It's a whole different ball game, and so you kind of need to get into this different mindset. So yeah, don't tell me, oh, I sent out 20 resumes and I'm not earning a living yet, because that's not how it works here. Okay. So anyway, hopefully you find this useful because there are a lot of differences between salary jobs and freelance jobs. So please let me know if there are any other differences, maybe that I've missed out or that you would like to hear about. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Okay, thanks. Bye. Savedum.